being well aware of the nature of human population, its dynamics, its structure, its characteristics. Now, what we have to deal with is the dynamic nature of human population. You have studied by now that how human population increases, it decreases. There have been many population explosions that have occurred from time to time. So now we are going to study the dynamic nature, and for studying the dynamic nature, whenever we are studying it, we are primarily dealing with population growth. Alright, now when you talk about population growth, there are two important factors for consideration which help in understanding or which help us in reaching to a stage where we can actually apprehend how much population growth has taken place. So the two important factors for this population growth that we are going to study, and in terms of human population, we are talking about the birth rate and the death rate. Now, you know by now, again, I would say that you have an idea that human population, because we are talking about human population, it is dynamic in nature. That means the structure of human population would be dynamic and it would be showing some sort of dynamism in terms of its density. So the population density we have to deal with, and population growth we are dealing with. Now when we talk about population growth, we are referring to the increase or decrease in the number of human beings. Okay, it is the number that increases or decreases, that is population growth. Now, why I am talking about these terms, why these are to be taken in consideration, do keep in mind that the important aspect of our syllabus is growth curves, that is population growth curves and pyramids, age pyramids. Now, keeping aside all the things that you have studied till now, these two things are important from examination point of view. And why they are important from examination point of view? Because whenever you have to study a population in reference to with regard to a greater reference where we study factors like evolution and rest of the things for higher studies, that is meant for, we have to consider these pyramids and the growth curves that you will study in subsequent lessons. So arriving to these two things, we have to understand how the population is dynamic. That means how it is showing growth. Now how that growth can be calculated, there are two terms. One is birth rate and other is death rate. You have seen by now that because human population ranges in billions, that is around 7 billion people are inhabiting the earth at the same time as we are, this cannot be calculated in terms of numbers. It is better to calculate and arrive to conclusions in terms of rates. So that is why we have birth rate and death rate. Now the first term that you have to come across is birth rate, and before coming to the rates, do keep in mind that we have another term that would be playing an important role, that is per annum. Alright, annually. At the same time, there would be another term that would be per 1,000 individuals. Now these are the terms. I'm going to use jugglery of words with these terms, and we are going to understand what birth rate and death rate basically are. Talking about the birth rate, very simply, firstly it is rate, secondly it deals with births. So because we have these terms, so birth rate is the number of human births. I'm referring here human because we have the chapter by the name of human population. This goes not just for the human population, it goes for any kind of population where we have individuals of same species which fight for a common resource and they can interbreed. Okay, you are very clear by now about the definition of a population. So the number of births which are taking per annum per 1,000 individuals. So supposedly we are talking about there is a classic example that is given in the books that are prescribed for your syllabus. The example is of a lotus plant that is given. You are given an example of a pond, and it is considered that there are around 100 lotus which are present, or you can consider 20 lotus plants are there, and they give rise to 8 new lotus plants in a year. So the birth rate automatically would be the number of plants which were originally present and the ratio between the new plants. So supposedly we have 1,000 individuals in the beginning of the year. In January, consider it this way, in January of XYZ year, 20, whatever you want to put over here, of the year, we have, consider 1,000 individuals. There are 1,000 human beings or 1,000 human beings which fall into the category, and by the end, that is January of next year, or you can say December the 31st of the same year, these 1,000 individuals have given birth to 20 new individuals. Alright, so what would be the birth rate? As you can make it out that it is clearly 20 new people have been added. So we are going to have the birth rate that could be calculated easily by the number of additions of human beings to the original number. That happens to be 0.02. So this would be the birth rate. That means each individual is capable of giving rise to 0.02 individuals. You don't have to get into that, but you just have to keep in mind that the birth rate, the rate at which that population is increasing, is 0.02. Alright, and this is the birth rate. Same goes with the case of death rate. Instead of number of births, it would be number of deaths. So consider it that in the beginning there were 1,000 individuals. Those 1,000 individuals got reduced to 980 individuals. Okay, 980 individuals. That means 20 deaths have occurred. So you have 20 individuals that have reduced. So in the same way, you are talking about the number of deaths per 1,000 individuals and you will arrive to the death rate. So these are the two terms that you need to know, and these play an important role in understanding the population growth in terms of population density. Okay, they have an effect on population density, and population density in turn has an effect, direct effect on population growth, and with this we can understand how a population is increasing or decreasing, which we study in growth curves, of course, that you will study later on. And from that perspective, once we understand growth curves, then again we can move forward to the age pyramids, where we restrict our knowledge to at what stage of human age do we have maximum number of individuals. So for understanding population in great depths, we need to be aware of these two terms. And just for your knowledge, it's better to understand the terms emigration and immigration. That is, you must be knowing that when somebody enters into your country, that is immigration, and when somebody leaves your country, that is emigration. And you can make it out, when somebody is going, then automatically the population would decrease, and when somebody is arriving, the population would increase. So the name itself suggests what implications they are going to have on the population structure, or rather I would say population density. And before we pile up the lesson, just remember two more terms. These are also not new for you. This is the term natality is used for birth rate and mortality is used for death rate. So these are the two terms you must be knowing, and this is the entire understanding of birth rate and death rate.